The Galactic Union had named it Tartarus 9 with a collective chuckle rippling through their appendages, a private joke among the council species who found the idea of any sentient life evolving on such a hostile planet simply absurd. Extreme temperature variations, aggressive fauna, unpredictable weather patterns, and tectonic instability made it a perfect example for the Union's planetary classification seminars, a textbook Deathworld that even the hardiest species would avoid. Ambassador Krill, with his translucent blue skin and 6 delicate limbs, had been the one to suggest it when Earth's representatives first approached the Union seeking a new colony world. Humans require certain challenges, he had said with poorly disguised amusement. Tartarus 9 would provide ample opportunity for your species' renowned adaptability. Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Colonial Fleet had simply nodded and accepted the coordinates. Unlike the other Union species who had evolved on gentle worlds with minimal predators and stable climates, humans had clawed their way to sentience on a planet that had tried to kill them at every turn. Earth itself was classified as a mid-tier deathworld by Union standards, though the humans had never been told this. 6 months later, the first colony ships entered Tartarus 9's orbit. From space, it appeared beautiful, swirling clouds over landmasses, painted in angry reds and harsh purples. Oceans that shifted between midnight blue and caustic green depending on the mineral content. Mountain ranges that would make the Himalayas look like gentle hills. "It's perfect," said Director Anna West as she stood on the bridge of the lead colony ship Endurance. Her weathered face broke into a broad smile as she studied the readouts. Gravity 1.2 Earth standard. Oxygen levels 23%. Nitrogen 74%. Trace elements within acceptable parameters. Her second-in-command, Thomas Reeves, looked less convinced. The atmospheric electrical discharge activity is off the charts. And those predator readings. "Just big cats and bears with extra legs, Tom," Anna replied, slapping him on the shoulder. "We've dealt with worse back home." What Anna didn't mention was that humanity had been running out of options. Earth was overcrowded, Mars was reaching capacity, and the terraforming of Venus had fallen decades behind schedule. The growing human sphere needed room to expand, and the Galactic Union had been reluctant to share prime real estate with the newest, and most unsettling, members of their community. The landing was rough. 3 of the 12 initial dropships crashed when local wind patterns proved more violent than anticipated. 42 colonists lost before they'd even set foot on the surface. The Union observers in orbit waited for the expected distress call, the plea for evacuation. It never came. Instead, Anna West's voice came through clear on all channels. Initial landing sites secured. Beginning prefab shelter construction. We've named the settlement New Haven. First crop seedings will commence tomorrow at dawn. Tartarus 9 is now officially claimed by the Earth Colonial Authority as humanity's newest home. The Union observers exchanged troubled looks. This was not how new colonies typically began. There should be years of terraforming, environmental adjustments, careful preparation. On the surface, as blood-red rain began to fall from a purple sky, Anna stared out at the harsh landscape. Lightning forked across the horizon, illuminating savage silhouettes moving at the tree line of a nearby forest, creatures that resembled a cross between wolves and scorpions. The acrid smell of the planet's soil burned her nostrils. She smiled. Humanity had always thrived where others feared to tread. "Welcome home," she whispered. 3 months after landfall, New Haven was no longer just a cluster of prefab shelters. Despite losing another 68 colonists to the local wildlife, electrical storms, and a particularly nasty fungal infection that dissolved lung tissue, the settlement had begun to take shape. Union observer Telex, a moth-like being from a gentle garden world, watched through his ship's monitoring systems with growing unease. He had expected, perhaps hoped, to document the humans' failure. Instead, he was witnessing something that defied all established colonial protocols. "They're not even attempting to change the environment," he reported back to Union headquarters. "They're adapting to it." On the surface, colonists moved about in modified exoskeletons designed to withstand both the slightly higher gravity and provide protection against the local predators. The settlement was ringed not by standard energy barriers, but by a combination of electrified fencing and actual physical walls built from local stone, something no modern species would consider when prefabricated materials were available. In a research outpost 2 kilometers from the main settlement, Dr. James Porter hunched over a microscope, studying the cellular structure of a native plant. Beside him, his colleague Dr. Lena Novak typed furiously into a tablet. "It's incredible," James said, not looking up. "These cellular walls contain natural electrical conductors. The plants here don't just survive the lightning storms. They harvest them." Lena nodded. "And I think we can adapt our crops to do the same. Imagine wheat that powers its own pest defense system." Outside their laboratory, a rumble of thunder rolled across the Crimson Plains. The colony's children, already adapting faster than the adults, whooped with delight and rushed to set up storm catchers, devices of their own invention that used the electrical discharges to power their toys. The third major storm since landfall swept across New Haven that night. Unlike the previous 2, which had claimed lives and destroyed equipment, this one found the colonists ready. Lightning rods channeled the savage energy into storage cells. Underground bunkers protected the vulnerable. Scout teams using reinforced vehicles tracked the movement of predator packs displaced by the storm, ensuring the settlement's perimeter remained secure. Anna West stood on the observation platform of what had once been the command dropship and was now New Haven's administrative center. Rain that would burn unprotected skin slid harmlessly off her adapted environment suit. Below, colonists went about their business despite conditions that would have most Union species cowering in sealed environments. Her communicator chimed. "Director, we've got a situation at the northern perimeter," came the voice of Security Chief Miguel Ortiz. "A pack of what the kids are calling thorn dogs broke through Section 5. Casualties?" Anna asked, already moving toward the transport lift. "None. Mason's hunting team intercepted them, got 2 clean kills, and drove the rest back. They're bringing in the carcasses now." Anna smiled. Mason had been a big game hunter on Earth, a hobby considered barbaric by Union standards. Here, his skills had made him a colony hero. Have Dr. Porter analyze the meat again. If these ones are like the others, tell Cook Rodriguez to fire up the grills. The thorn dogs, vaguely canine but covered in poisonous spines and possessing mandibles instead of jaws, had initially been one of the deadliest threats to the colony. Now they were becoming a reliable food source, their poison glands carefully removed before their surprisingly tender meat was cooked. From orbit, Telix watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as the humans lit fires in the rain and began to prepare the predators as food. A message flashed across his communications array. The Galactic Union Council was requesting an update on what they still referred to as the human Deathworld experiment. Telix hesitated. How could he explain that what had been intended as a cosmic joke, or perhaps even a subtle form of population control for the worryingly expansionist humans, was rapidly becoming something else entirely? He began his report. The humans are not merely surviving on Tartarus 9. They are beginning to thrive. By the end of the first year, New Haven had expanded to 3 interconnected settlements housing over 5,000 colonists. The initial death rate had dropped dramatically as humans adapted to their new homes' dangers with remarkable speed. More surprisingly, birth rates were rising. The first generation of children born on Tartarus 9 were already crawling around the settlement's nurseries. Union scientific vessels now openly orbited the planet, their crews observing the humans with increasing interest. What had begun as a joke had become the most studied colonial endeavor in recent galactic history. "They're deliberately selecting for the most extreme conditions," reported scientist Observer Maul, an amphibious being who specialized in evolutionary biology. Their newest settlement is directly in a volcanic active zone. Indeed, the third human settlement, named Forge by the colonists, had been established at the base of an active volcano range. The constant tremors and occasional minor eruptions would have terrified most species. The humans, however, had discovered that the volcanic soil was extraordinarily fertile and the geothermal energy abundant. In Forge's central greenhouse complex, Agricultural Director Wei Lin carefully inspected rows of earth crops that had been genetically modified to thrive in the mineral-rich volcanic soil. Tomatoes the size of melons hung from reinforced vines. Corn stalks stood nearly 4 meters tall, their kernels gleaming with an unusual purple sheen. The native microbes are accelerating growth beyond our most optimistic projections, Wei explained to a group of newly arrived colonists. These plants are not just surviving. They're incorporating elements of the local biology. One of the newcomers, a former Earth botanist named Robert Tanner, stared in amazement at what appeared to be a potato the size of a beach ball. "Is it safe to eat?" Wei grinned and pulled out a knife, cutting a slice and popping it into his mouth. "Tastes better than Earth potatoes ever did. Higher protein content, too. We're calling them thunder tubers. They seem to grow fastest during electrical storms." Outside the greenhouse, construction teams were assembling a new type of dwelling. Unlike the prefab structures that dominated New Haven, these buildings were being made from a combination of local stone and a chitin-like material harvested from the exoskeletons of giant insectoids that roamed the planet's equatorial regions. Project engineer Diane Foster supervised as a crane lifted a massive section of processed chitin onto the frame of what would become the settlement's new medical center. "The material is lighter than steel, but twice as strong," she explained to Anna West, who was touring the construction site. "And it naturally regulates temperature. No more wasting energy on climate control." Anna nodded approvingly. "How are the hunting parties doing with harvesting?" "Better than expected. Marcus developed a new lure that attracts the larger specimens. And the best part, the chitin regenerates if harvested correctly. We can farm these creatures rather than just hunt them." As they spoke, a distant roar echoed across the valley. Neither woman flinched. The colony's perimeter defenses had proven more than adequate against even the largest predators. In fact, many colonists now viewed the planet's fearsome wildlife as just another resource to be utilized. That evening, Anna sat in her office reviewing the latest census data. A soft knock at her door preceded the entrance of colony physician, Dr. Elena Rodriguez. "You wanted to see the latest medical reports?" Elena asked, placing a tablet on Anna's desk. "Anything concerning?" Elena hesitated. "Not concerning, exactly." "Interesting. The children born here, they're developing differently from Earth-born humans. Higher bone density, more efficient respiratory systems, slightly altered skin composition that's more resistant to the local bacteriological challenges." Anna looked up sharply. "Natural adaptations? That quickly? Some of it appears to be epigenetic responses to the environment. But there's more going on than we can explain through conventional science. It's as if..." Elena paused, searching for words. "As if Tartarus 9 is reshaping us to better survive here," Anna finished. Elena nodded slowly. "The question is, what will humans look like after a few generations on this world?" From their observation vessels, the Union scientists were asking the same question. What had begun as a cruel joke was becoming an unprecedented evolutionary experiment, and the humans seemed to be welcoming it. 2 years into the colonization of Tartarus 9, the supply ships from Earth arrived to find a transformed landscape. The initial settlements had expanded into a network of interconnected communities, each specializing in different aspects of survival on the Deathworld. More surprisingly, human-built structures now extended into previously impassable terrain. Floating settlements on the caustic oceans, cliff dwellings in the electrical storm-battered mountains, even subterranean complexes beneath the treacherous shifting plains. Captain Lisa Moore of the Earth supply vessel Prometheus stood speechless on New Haven's now sprawling central plaza. When she had delivered the first colonists, this had been nothing but bare, hostile ground. Now it resembled a bizarre fusion of frontier town an advanced technological hub, with buildings made from materials she couldn't identify and vehicles unlike any she'd seen on Earth. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Thomas Reeves, appearing at her side. He had aged visibly in the 2 years since landfall, his face weathered by Tartarus Nine's harsh conditions, but his eyes sparkled with an energy Lisa found almost unsettling. "It's unexpected," she admitted. "The Union observers claimed you were thriving. But this," she gestured at the bustling community, "this isn't just survival." Thomas laughed. "Come on, I'll show you the real changes." He led her to what the colonists called the Evolution Center, a massive research facility where the true transformation of human life on Tartarus 9 was being documented and, more shockingly, directed. Inside, Dr. Porter had expanded his initial research into a comprehensive program studying the interaction between human biology and the planet's unique environment. Huge tanks contained experimental crops growing in various combinations of earth and Tartaran soil. Medical imaging equipment monitored the development of infants born on the Deathworld. "The first generation born here are displaying consistent adaptations," Dr. Porter explained as he showed Lisa scans of children ranging from newborns to 2-year-olds. "Denser bone structure, reinforced epithelial tissues, enhanced liver function to process the different mineral content in our food and water." Lisa stared at the images. "Is this deliberate genetic engineering?" "Not in the way you mean," Thomas interjected. "We're not altering genes in a lab. The planet is doing it for us. We're just cooperating with the process." Dr. Porter nodded enthusiastically. "It's a partnership. We introduce Earth life, human, plant, and animal, and observe how Tartarus 9 reshapes it. Then we selectively breed for the most successful adaptations." Lisa felt a chill despite the facility's comfortable temperature. The Union would consider this dangerously close to creating a subspecies. "The Union gave us this Deathworld as a joke," Thomas said flatly. "They don't get to complain about how we make it home." Later that day, Lisa joined Anna West on an inspection tour of the newest settlement innovation. Massive barriers being constructed to redirect the lava flows from the volcanic region near Forge. The barriers weren't designed to stop the flows entirely, but to channel them into prepared basins where the heat and minerals could be harnessed. "We've developed materials that can withstand the temperatures," Anna explained, pointing to workers in specialized suits laying sections of a ceramic-like substance. The suits themselves are made from processed chitin from the apex predators, lined with fibers grown from adapted earth cotton that's now naturally fire-resistant. "And the Union hasn't intervened?" Lisa asked, still trying to process the scope of the changes. Anna's expression hardened slightly. "They've sent observers, scientists, even a few trade delegations interested in our innovations. But intervene? On what grounds? We're succeeding beyond anyone's expectations on a world they thought would kill us." As they watched, a controlled lava diversion test began. Molten rock flowed through the newly constructed channel, glowing an eerie blue-orange due to Tartarus 9's unique mineral composition. Where it touched the barrier material, there was no melting, no failure, just a system working exactly as the human designers had intended. "We're not just surviving here, Lisa," Anna said quietly. "We're becoming something new, something better adapted to the harshness of the universe than humanity has ever been. And the Union is starting to realize what that might mean." Lisa nodded slowly, understanding the implication. The joke had backfired spectacularly. On this Deathworld, humans weren't just making a home. They were forging themselves into something the galaxy had never seen before. 4 years after the first landing, Tartarus 9 hosted a delegation from the Galactic Union Council itself, the first time such high-ranking officials had deigned to set foot on what they still officially classified as a Deathworld. The visit was prompted not by concern for the colonists' welfare, but by the rapidly spreading rumors about the changes occurring among the human population. Ambassador Krill, who had originally suggested Tartarus 9 as humanity's colonial graveyard, seemed physically diminished as he stepped from the protective confines of his shuttle. even breathing through specialized filters. The planet's atmosphere, perfectly comfortable to the adapted colonists, caused his respiratory membranes to flutter in distress. "Welcome to New Haven," said Governor Anna West, her title having evolved along with her settlement. She stood unprotected in the harsh sunlight, her skin now permanently bronzed with a slight purple undertone. One of the many subtle changes that had become common among long-term residents. "We're honored by your presence." Krill's translator conveyed his strained response. "The Council is interested in your unexpected success here." The delegation was escorted through a settlement that had grown into a true city, with architecture that blended Earth designs with practical adaptations to local conditions. Buildings rose at odd angles to deflect the powerful winds. Water collection systems captured the acidic rain and processed it through biological filters. Plants engineered by the colonists that thrived on the very toxins that made the precipitation dangerous. Most striking were the people themselves. 4 years of living on Tartarus 9 had left its mark. Adults moved with the easy confidence of predators in their natural habitat. Children born on the planet played games that would have been considered dangerously violent on Earth, their toughened bodies bouncing back from falls that would have broken bones in their off-world cousins. The delegation was brought to the Evolution Center, now expanded into a sprawling complex that housed the colony's scientific heart. Here, Dr. James Porter, his own body noticeably transformed with denser muscle structure and eyes adapted to see further into the ultraviolet spectrum, presented the findings that had so alarmed the Union Council. The third generation of Tartaran humans show the most dramatic adaptations, he explained, displaying holographic models of infants recently born on the colony. Reinforced skeletal structure, enhanced metabolic efficiency, increased resistance to electrical discharge, all natural adaptations, though we've instituted breeding recommendations to encourage beneficial traits. Union scientists' superior neem, a gelatinous being housed in a protective exoskeleton, vibrated with alarm, an emotional display equivalent to human gasping. "You are engaging in selective breeding of your own species. We prefer to call it adaptive family planning," Dr. Porter replied smoothly. "Completely voluntary, of course." What he didn't mention was that the process had accelerated beyond purely natural selection. The planet itself seemed to be collaborating in the evolution of its new dominant species. Something in the soil, the water, perhaps even the electrical storms, was influencing genetic expression in ways that benefited survival. The tour continued to the agricultural sectors, where Earth crops had been transformed into barely recognizable variants. Wheat stalks now grew as thick as bamboo, their grain heads containing seeds the size of olives. Fruit trees produced enormous yields of produce that contained precisely the nutrients humans on Tartarus 9 needed most. "Our agricultural exports will begin next month," explained Wai Lin, now Director of Colonial Resources. "Several human colonies and more hospitable environments have already placed orders for our adapted seed stock." Ambassador Krill's translator struggled to convey his mixture of disbelief and concern. "You intend to spread these mutations to other worlds?" Wei smiled, revealing teeth slightly more angular than Earth-human norms, another adaptation appearing in long-term residents. "These plants produce 300% more yield than standard Earth varieties, are resistant to most diseases, and can grow in conditions that would kill conventional crops. Why wouldn't we share such benefits?" As the delegation prepared to depart after their abbreviated tour, shortened when 2 Union representatives developed respiratory distress despite their protective equipment, Anna West presented them with a formal request that caught even Ambassador Krill off guard. "We are officially petitioning for Tartarus 9 to be reclassified," she announced. "We propose the designation Adaptive Development World rather than Deathworld, as the term no longer applies to human inhabitants." The implications were clear. What had been intended as humanity's prison, or tomb, had become their crucible instead. The joke had transformed into something the Union could no longer laugh about. 6 years into the colonization of Tartarus 9, The human presence had expanded to cover significant portions of the main continent. What had begun as desperate survival had evolved into mastery, as the colony's population, now approaching 30,000, continued to adapt in ways that alarmed Union observers. The changes were most dramatic in the children, those born on Tartarus 9, especially third and fourth generation offspring, displayed adaptations that were approaching speciation. Their skin contained natural conductors that harmlessly channeled the electrical discharges common during storm seasons. Their digestive systems processed native foods with perfect efficiency. Most strikingly, they had developed a symbiotic relationship with certain native microorganisms, incorporating them into their own biology in ways that enhanced strength and healing. In the central plaza of New Haven, now a sprawling metropolis of organic architecture and advanced technology, a ceremony marked the opening of the first interstellar embassy on Tartarus 9. Not a Union embassy, they still maintained their distance, observing from orbit, but one representing three independent non-Union worlds that sought alliance with the rapidly advancing human colony. Governor Anna West, her own body now so adapted to Tartarus 9 that she required special accommodations when visiting other planets, addressed the gathered crowd. At 58, she looked no more than 40 by Earth standards, another benefit of the adaptations. 6 years ago, we were handed this world as a death sentence, she began, her voice carrying across the plaza without amplification. One of many subtle changes in human physiology. Today, representatives from Novus Prime, Keltor, and Bandu Exa stand with us to forge new partnerships based not on pity or power, but on mutual respect for what we've accomplished here. The alien representatives, all from worlds that had strained relationships with the Union, stood nearby in their environmental suits. Like most non-human species, they couldn't tolerate Tartarus 9's conditions unprotected, a fact that highlighted just how extraordinary the human adaptation had been. In orbit, Union vessels maintained their careful observation. Their reports back to the Council had grown increasingly concerned, focusing less on the colony's unexpected survival and more on its rapid technological advancement. Innovations born of necessity on the harsh world were proving to have applications far beyond mere survival. In the colony's Advanced Manufacturing Center, Chief Engineer Marcus Reed supervised the production of the first Starship components, manufactured entirely from Tartaran materials. The alloys, incorporating minerals previously thought too unstable for aerospace applications, displayed strength-to-weight ratios that exceeded Union standards by factors of 10 or more. The native metals, when combined with the resin we've derived from the forest predators, create a molecular lattice structure unlike anything we've seen before, Marcus explained to a group of off-world investors, humans from other colonies who had recognized the potential of Tartaran innovation. The ships we're building will be faster, more durable, and can withstand radiation levels that would cripple conventional hulls. What Marcus didn't mention was that these advancements had come with unexpected help. 6 months earlier, explorers mapping the southern hemisphere had discovered ruins, evidence that Tartarus 9 had once hosted intelligent life of its own. Species that had apparently evolved to thrive in the harsh conditions, developed advanced technology, and then vanished for reasons unknown. The discovery had been kept quiet, shared only with colony leadership and a select research team. Among the ruins, they had found data storage devices that, once deciphered, revealed knowledge that accelerated human development on the planet by decades. The previous inhabitants had left behind a technological legacy that the human colonists were now claiming as their birthright. In her private office after the embassy ceremony, Anna met with the colony's leadership council. The atmospheric displays showed a massive electrical storm approaching from the west, once a cause for emergency preparations, now just a noted weather event. The Union requested another delegation visit, reported Thomas Reeves, now Colony Security Director. His body, like Anna's, had adapted dramatically to Tartaran conditions. His skin had a faint scale-like quality that provided natural armor against the planet's harsher elements. They're concerned about the ship construction. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who headed the medical division, brought up another holographic display showing the latest adaptation data. We need to make a decision about the evolution program. The changes are accelerating beyond our original projections. The newest generation. She paused, searching for the right words. They're becoming something beyond human by traditional definitions. Anna studied the genetic models floating before her. What had begun as subtle adaptations were now approaching fundamental rewrites of the human genome. Driven partly by the environment, partly by the colonists' own selective breeding program, and partly by something in Tartarus 9 itself that seemed to be guiding the process. We knew this would happen eventually, Anna said quietly. The question is whether we continue to share our findings with Earth and the other colonies. The unspoken concern hung in the air. The humans of Tartarus 9 were becoming a new branch of humanity, stronger, more resilient, potentially longer-lived. If these adaptations spread to the wider human sphere, what would it mean for humanity's place in the galaxy? The joke that had been played on them, sending humans to a Deathworld, had created something the Union had never anticipated. A human subspecies specifically evolved for the harshest conditions the universe could offer. The storm outside intensified, lightning illuminating the council chamber through its transparent ceiling. None of the leaders flinched as thunderclaps shook the building. Like the planet itself, they had become forces of nature. 10 years after the first humans set foot on Tartarus 9, a Galactic Union warfleet entered the system. 19 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts, positioned themselves in high orbit, a show of force unprecedented in Union diplomatic history. On the bridge of his flagship, High Commander Vrax of the Union Defense Force observed the transformed planet below. What had once been a barren, hostile world now showed signs of extensive development visible even from space. Vast agricultural regions displayed crops in unnatural geometric patterns. Massive energy collection arrays harvested the intense electrical storms. Cities sprawled across regions previously considered uninhabitable by any known species. They've accomplished in a decade what should have taken centuries, murmured his second-in-command. The council was right to be concerned. Vrax nodded grimly. The official purpose of their mission was security assessment, but everyone aboard understood the truth. The Union had come to evaluate whether Tartarus humans had become a threat that needed to be contained. On the planet's surface, in what had once been New Haven and was now simply called Haven Prime, an emergency council meeting had been convened in the Central Administrative Tower, a structure built from advanced composite materials that rose 300 meters into the toxic to most species atmosphere. Anna West, now holding the title of Planetary Director, studied the holographic display of the Union fleet with an expression that mixed disappointment with resolution. At 62, she remained vital and strong, her adapted physiology having halted most aspects of aging. Like all first-generation colonists who had survived the full decade, she now carried within her cellular structure fundamental changes that made her as much Tartaran as human. "They're afraid," she stated simply, as we knew they would be eventually. Around the circular table sat the colony's leadership, all transformed by their time on the Deathworld. Thomas Reeves, his skin now bearing a faint iridescent quality that helped process the planet's radiation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her eyes evolved to see into spectrums invisible to standard humans. Chief Engineer Marcus Reed, his dense musculature and reinforced skeleton, making him appear almost like a different species compared to the Union observers occasionally allowed planetside. The adaptation program has exceeded all projections, Dr. Rodriguez reported. The latest generation shows neural development 30% beyond baseline human norms, and the symbiotic integration with native microbiota is nearly complete. They can process toxins that would kill an Earth human instantly. And the ancient technology integration? Anna asked. Marcus activated another holographic display, showing schematics for vessels unlike anything in the Union registry. The first 5 deep space ships are ready. Based on the ruins technology, but improved with our adaptations. They're faster than anything the Union has, with defensive systems that can withstand their standard weaponry. The unspoken question hung in the air. Was this to be a confrontation, or was there another path forward? The communication system chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from the Union flagship. Anna nodded, and the holographic display shifted to show High Commander Vrax, his elongated arthropod-like form, encased in the environmental suit required by his species. Planetary Director West, his translator conveyed with formal precision. The Union Council requires a full inspection of your military capabilities and biological adaptation programs. Prepare to receive our delegation. Anna's response was measured but firm. We welcome diplomatic exchange, Commander. However, Tartarus 9 is a sovereign human world. Any delegation must respect our protocols, including adaptation requirements for planetary conditions. A subtle way of saying, your representatives can't survive here without our help. What followed was not the confrontation many had feared, but something more profound. Over the next 30 days, Union representatives, protected by adaptation technology provided by the colonists, toured the transformed world. They witnessed children who could swim in oceans that would dissolve standard environmental suits. They observed agricultural systems that produced yields thought biologically impossible. They studied the ruins that had accelerated human development and the new technologies that had emerged from that ancient knowledge. Most significantly, they came to understand that the humans of Tartarus 9 had no interest in conquest. Their adaptations had made them uniquely suited to worlds the Union considered worthless. Deathworlds that comprised nearly 30% of potentially habitable planets in the galaxy. On the final day of the inspection, Anna West stood with High Commander Vrax on the observation deck of Haven Prime's central tower. A massive electrical storm raged around them, lightning striking the building's collection rods every few seconds. The commander remained safely inside an environmental field, while Anna stood exposed to elements that would kill most species in seconds. Your report to the Council will determine much, Anna said as purple-tinged lightning illuminated her adapted features. Will you recommend containment, isolation, or partnership? Vrax's translator was silent for a long moment before conveying his response. The joke, it seems, was on us. We gave you a death world, thinking it would limit human expansion. Instead, it has opened the galaxy to you in ways we never anticipated. We don't want conflict, Anna assured him. But we will not be constrained. There are thousands of worlds like this one, planets the Union has written off as uninhabitable. We can make them bloom. Another massive lightning strike illuminated the transformed landscape below. Cities and farms and factories, where once there had been only hostile wilderness. A landscape that had killed hundreds of the first humans to arrive, now home to over 50,000 thriving colonists who were rapidly becoming something new. The Council will recognize Tartaran humanity as a distinct political entity. Vrax finally responded, with sovereign rights to develop Deathworld-class planets throughout Union space. As the commander departed the next day with his fleet, the humans of Tartarus 9 gathered to watch the ships diminish into points of light against their purple-red sky. Children born on this world, their biology adapted in ways their ancestors could never have imagined, pointed excitedly at the departing vessels. Will we go to the stars soon, Director? Asked a young girl standing near Anna, her skin gleaming with the iridescent patterns that marked the third generation of Tartaran humans. Anna smiled down at the child, who could run faster, think quicker, and survive environments that would kill an Earth human in minutes. A child who represented humanity's new branch on the evolutionary tree. Yes, she replied, but not to the gentle worlds the Union prizes. We'll go to the places they fear to tread. The death worlds that are waiting for people strong enough to make them home. Overhead, lightning danced across the sky. No longer a threat, but a power source, a catalyst for growth, a familiar feature of the home that humans had claimed against all odds. They had been sent to Tartarus 9 as a joke, expected to fail, to perish, to serve as an object lesson in human hubris. Instead, they had evolved. The end